All
right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. We are elated to start our Bible study this morning. I feel like I'm up in the clouds somewhere. Very, very high up here. But we will make do. Just want to welcome all of our visitors. Bear with us for the next couple of minutes. Well, by the time you leave class, everything will be situated. But we are a little particular about the way things look, so we're just going to get things situated here. For those who have traveled, whether near or far, you are our honored guests all throughout the day. We're thankful that God has seen fit to give us the opportunity to be together. And before we worship Him in spirit and in truth for the things that He has, is, and will do for us, we're going to study a portion of His Word. Did the brothers already put the extra books and Bibles out on the front table for the visitors? The books in the Bible? We're in lesson 4. We're studying King Saul. In our biblical text, we are in 1 Samuel chapters 14 and 15. So 1 Samuel chapters 14 and 15. And in our scholastic text, we are on page 10. We've been looking at the survey of the Old Testament. We had started literally in Genesis chapter 1. And now, through progression of time, we are all the way in 1 Samuel. So we've been doing a slow dive for our visitors of going through the Old Testament, but not in a scholastic or a school setting. We've been trying to make application to these lessons to our everyday lives as New Testament Christians. So here we're studying King Saul. For those who were not here last week, King Saul, unfortunately, if you are with us for the first time this week, you came at a bad time for him because he's been pretty disobedient for the last couple of weeks, unfortunately. So we'll be looking at that this morning. Let's just for a quick recap for our guests. If someone can read for us verses, let's go to 15, 1 Samuel 15. Someone just read for us 24 through the end of the chapter, verse 35, 24 through 35. 1 Samuel 15, 24 through 35.
Then Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and your word, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Now therefore, please pardon my sin and return with me, that I may worship the Lord. But Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. And as Samuel turned around to go away, Saul seized the edge of his robe, and it tore. So Samuel said to him, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today, and has given it to a neighbor of yours, who is better than you. And also the strength of Israel will not lie nor relent, for he is not a man that he should relent. Then he said, I have sinned, yet honor me now, please, before the elders of my people and before Israel, and return with me, that I may worship the Lord, your God. So Samuel turned back with Saul, and Saul worshiped the Lord. Then Samuel said, bring Agag, king of the Amalekites, here to me. So Agag came to him cautiously. And Agag said, surely the bitterness of death is past. But Samuel said, as your sword has made women childless, so shall your mother be childless and no woman. And Samuel hacked Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to the house at Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel went no more to see Saul until the day of his death. Nevertheless, Samuel mourned for Saul, and the Lord regretted that he had made Saul king over Israel.
Wow, thank you. Good reading. Let's see what we have here. We're in question 18. For those who just came in, we have a couple of books here and some Bibles if you need on the table to my right and to your left. We're on page number 10. We are in the second set of questions on page number 10, the rejection of Saul. And we're looking at questions 18, 19, and 20 we're looking for today. Let's look at 18. What was the consequence of Saul's disobedience? Based on what Sister Nadine read. What was the consequences for his disobedience? It really gets right into it, the first 4 or 5 verses. What are the consequences for his disobedience? Anybody? You can shout it out. Everybody grown here. You can raise your hand if you want, but you can shout it out.
The kingdom of Israel was removed from him and his family.
Okay, so the kingdom was removed from him. We know as Bible students, as a spoiler alert, that means that God is going to anoint somebody else king, which we know in the future is going to be who? David, right? So basically his kingship will come to an end. So that's a big deal, but not only to him, but to his family as well. Meaning it's not like it's going to be taken from him and Jonathan will be king. So that's good. What else? Or is there anything else of the consequences of Saul's disobedience? There's another thing. Tell me something about Samuel and Saul's interaction, verse 26. How many more times will Samuel come back to Saul in verse 26, based on what Samuel is saying? I will not return to you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. What does that mean? Why is that a big deal that Samuel's not going to visit him?
Separate relationship. God doesn't have anything else to say to Saul.
Okay, so God speaks to Saul through Samuel. His mouthpiece is no longer, as a prophet, is no longer going to interact with him. Interesting. So this is the last time they're going to interact. And then again, as we jump down, verse 35 reiterates that. It says, Samuel went no more to see Saul until the day of his death. Right? Interesting. Okay, anything else? Question 18. Any other consequences of Saul's disobedience? Yes.
Not. This is to draw a parallel with us today.
Okay.
When we're disobedient as members of God's church, and we're spoken to by the leaders or by the church, and we decide not to repent in the same way that Saul decided not to repent, there's fellowship. So this is the same concept in the Old Testament that we now have in the New Testament, that says we should no longer have fellowship with people who refuse to relent and do God's word. So, when we talk about God the same yesterday, today, and forever, this is the very same thing.
Yeah, this is interesting as we look at these parallels, because God gave specific instructions. Just as a very brief recap, God had passed judgment on a group of people based on how those group of people treated the Israelites when they were coming through Egypt in their mass exodus so many generations ago. God told Saul through Samuel to go to those people, destroy everything, and move on with your life. Saul went in, he destroyed what he felt was worthless, kept the stuff that he felt was good, and also kidnapped the king. None of which is what God asked him to do, right? So that's just a backdrop. But last couple of weeks, we looked at just the disobedience, not necessarily the exact thing he disobeyed, right? We made parallels as parents. If you remember about the parent will say, clean the kitchen. The parent comes back, the kitchen is dirty, and the kid's response is, I wash the dishes. Because the kid's mind is the dishes are in the kitchen. But the parent meant way more than the dishes, which is why he or she said, clean up the kitchen, right? So when we see that, disobedience in a physical parental sense makes sense, and we could understand it, right? The speed limit is 55. If you go 56, could you be pulled over and get a ticket? Good, right? Virginia is a state that's notorious for pulling you over with just a tiny bit of infraction. Now, if you get stopped, your argument is usually, I wasn't going that fast past the speed limit. Right? But the point is, did you break the law? Right? Because we don't think of it that way, but you are a lawbreaker. Now, I speak this boldly because I break speed limit law all the time. So I try to get better on that, maybe in my older age. But I can't get stopped by the police and police say, you know why I stopped you? Yeah, because probably I was speeding, right? Because I know how I drive. People from God's point of view, to Sister Nadine's point, especially in modern times, people look at this way different. People look at it as partial credit, like math, where they say, I'm doing a lot of good church things, but I am doing a couple sinful things. But I don't bring the sinful things to worship. I keep them away from the body. This is how some people rationalize. So the point is, I'm doing those things on my own. And then people will say, I'm a work in progress, only God can judge. Right? They'll throw that part in. But when we look at this, right, he did some of what God asked him to do, but he didn't do everything. And God's reasoning behind this was, if you didn't do everything, it set a bad precedent. One of his reasons, it set a bad precedent to the group that anybody can not follow what God asked. Plus, God had the divine judgment on these people, so he decides what should be passed judgment on or not. Same thing in our lives. We make decisions based off of snapshots. Some of us don't even look at the past. God is telling you how to live your life based off of two key factors that you are not privy to. How he designed you to be, right? You don't know how he designed you to be, right? He had a design in mind for you. And the other thing is God lives outside of time. So if somebody lives outside of time and they say, hey, you should get an umbrella because it's raining out, we want to go out and check first and come back and say, you're right, let me get my umbrella. To God's point is, you are wasting, not God's time, your time. Because if you trust me and walk by faith, not by sight, you would have grabbed the umbrella even if it was sunny on your way in. Because we say, well, it was sunny on the way in. The weather couldn't have changed that fast. So these are just comical examples to get our mind and to see to what Sister Nadine was speaking about, because that's rigid, right? When we get to that point, we have to be able to understand that in the fundamental stage before we can get to it to the disfellowship stage. We talk about the last several weeks here, a standard. We have to live towards a standard. Each and every one of us, no matter what local congregation you worship on, and you have to live towards a standard that God set. The second that you or I decide to create our own standard, that gives the right to everyone else in the group to do whatever they want to do. Because there's no difference in what you think is right and what I think is right. We need somebody outside of the two of us to be a mediator and an arbitrator to say, here is what's right. Anybody remember the story with King Solomon and the two mothers?
Yeah.
Right? That concept is we need somebody who's not the two of them to decide who's telling the truth. So God is saying, yes, I will be your standard, right? I'm telling you how to live, each and every one of you, based on the design that I create for you, right? That's well and good. But we hear that and decide to go another way just as bold as Saul. And that's the thing that we have to catch ourselves with. This concept of being disobedient like this hard-headedness, this stiff neck, this is a personality trait. Now, some of us don't have this personality trait. Some of us, your parents tell you, come home at 10, you come home at 9 just in case. Right? Some people, that's the way. Some people, the speed limit is 55, they do 54. Right? Some people take a penny, leave a penny, they leave $1 just in case. But some of us are extremely hard-headed, and if we were to ask our mother and father, they will tell us that we always been that way. You know how they know? Because you got that from one or both of them. That's why I always say is people with similar traits, they need to go together and procreate. Like if you rude, you need to date a rude person because you know your kid gonna come out rude. It hurts when a rude person dating a nice person. And then the kid come out rude, and then the nice parent thinking, what? But the rude one thinking, because you know what they'll think? I turned out fine. See, that's why you need to get together, right? People was too busy worrying about race and all those things all these years ago. Personality traits. If you late, you should marry somebody late. That way both of y'all be late together. Because somebody on time marrying somebody late is gonna cause frustration. Because you know what they're gonna think if you're on time is, how you was this way all your life? Then when you arguing, right, because you know it's gonna get snippy, they're gonna say something to the effect of, that's how you was raised. And then you're gonna say, oh, you talking about my mom. And then see, this is just gonna turn into friction and clash. But it stems from your personality. That's why when God is saying in the New Testament now, put off the old man. And he lists in Galatians a few things to grab us, right? Paul lists a few things to grab us and says, and such were some of you. Oh, that was me. But let's put off how we used to be. So one thing that we've been talking about a lot this year is, let's try to analyze our Christianity in terms of our personalities a little bit more than just what we consider big sins. Meaning people do a lot of, hey, I don't do this or I don't do that. But what about the heart change, right? This year, once you get to the end of this month, it's half gone. Have you made any personality improvement? Right? Personality improvements. Your personality, who you are, meaning no matter who you interact with, you are the common denominator. Have you made any personality improvements so that when you get in a hot water situation like Saul, you would have already resolved in your heart not to do X, Y, and Z based off of your personality. See, he's acting his natural self. That is the problem, right? And how do I know that is when we go to James, James says, how are you tempted? When you're drawn by your own desire. See, that's why I'm telling you at some point, you got to look into the mirror and say, here are the things that I desire. I have to work on it. If this young man had worked on that, he would have been prepared to be a better king, and he would have been prepared to be in these bad situations. But he went into his kingship unprepared. He didn't even know himself. And that's the danger. I feel if you can conquer yourself, you can conquer the world. I feel like most people go to their grave not even fully knowing who they are. Most people can't be happy in a relationship because they don't know what they want to be happy. So how am I helping? That's why I always say, people talking better half. I need a whole pizza, a whole cake, a whole pie. I don't want half apple pie and half blueberry pie. A better half. You need to be whole. You need to have been working on yourself your entire life before you met somebody. Okay. All right, let's look at question 19. Is this condemnation of Saul only a repetition of 13 through 14, or is something new added? Let's read. Somebody go back for us and read those two verses. 1 Samuel 13, verses 13 through 14. What does that say?
You have done a foolish thing, Samuel said. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. But now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him to be ruler of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's command. All right. Is this condemnation of Saul that we have read in 1 Samuel 15, is that a repetition of 13? What do you think?
Yes.
And how so? Yes, go ahead.
It's absolutely a repetition. We see Saul doing the same thing over and over and over again. And as we alluded to earlier, it speaks about his character, right? From the very beginning when he was behind, hiding from all the people, and God had to call him out, people had to call him out, and he was appointed king. This is what he does constantly. And we see that Saul hasn't learned anything at all, right? I'm looking through here. I see that Jonathan, right, has made a change. Jonathan acted out his faith. I see Saul, you can tell that he's getting stronger now. His faith as well. The people's faith are getting stronger as well because they did not want Saul to kill Jonathan. But Saul is doing the same thing over and over and over again, the same mistakes over and over again, where he feels like, or he thinks he's equal to God. And when God tells him something, well, what I'm going to do half of what you're telling me, and I'm going to do the other half my way. So he speaks to his character. He's not going to change. That's why God had to say, okay, you know what? I need someone else. I need to get someone after my own heart.
Yeah. See, I seen a meme the other day that somebody was like, why you keep bringing up the past? And it said, I'm not bringing up the past, I'm exposing a pattern. Right? Because most people don't know how to argue. I maintain that. Most people wait for you to finish, and then they, whatever they say, if you repeat back to them what they said, they be confused. Because again, your own thoughts, right? You gotta master your own thoughts before it come out your mouth. I don't know what's going on in your mind, right? So if you saying, hey, why you keep bringing up the past? Sweetheart, you living in a circle. A circle have no beginning and no end. It's a continuum. So it's not past, it's not future, it's not present, it's you. Right? It's I mean, that's what it is, right? Like, people who live that way, they don't live a life of change. Change would be to break the cycle. You know how some people talk about breaking generational poverty, where they say, oh, I was the first person with a college degree, or I was the first person that owned a business or this thing, and they said, I'm going to actively break the cycle so that instead of a circle, we're going to go like this, a line. And here's where we started as a family, but Lord only knows where we'll end up. That's a line. That's when you can look back at the past as a guide to help you not make the same mistake. But when you live in a continuum, every day is Groundhog's Day. That means it don't matter. There's no difference in your life between Saturday and Monday or Sunday or Tuesday. It's just you living every single day. You are living in a cycle or a pattern. Saul is living in a pattern, right? He didn't reference 1 Samuel 13 in his life and say, oh, I kind of did something similar to that already. I didn't do the exact sin. But the mindset that drove that is the same pattern, right? And I feel like some of us count moral victories in Christianity. I didn't do that exact same thing, but I did something. That's a moral victory. That's like saying, oh, we came back, we were down 18, and we only lost at 5. You lost. Right. It don't matter if you lost by 1 or you lost by 1,000. Did you win the game? That's a moral victory where you're trying to build morale for your team to say, well, next time maybe we can win because look, we almost came back. That's how I feel people, we live that way, right? We get here on Sunday and be like, I almost had a good week. Really tell me about it. And then you just start talking these things. But the things that you talk, are they new things or are they patterns? Because if it's a pattern, you didn't almost have a good week because I can predict the week you're going to have next week because you're living in a cycle. That's all. That's why I like that the author put this in here. Is it a condemnation? Because I like how your first responses was a flip, not necessarily thinking of it as a condemnation like it's God's fault, but thinking it from Saul's point of view is he is the contender. So that's good. Anyone else for 19? Yes.
And it's funny, he didn't have it in him. So to select him as a leader, you're trying to get something out of nothing. And the beauty about Saul that I see in his character, he was a person that didn't care to change. Like, he knew the responsibility of being a king, but hiding in the equipment is who he was. He just was a guy that stepped back and let everybody else do it. And you can't have everybody in charge. Nothing is going to get done. But he was fine with that. You know what I'm saying? As a leader, he was fine with that. And he got himself in a mess and got himself in a mess in a hurry because God wants people to change when he used certain people as an instrument to do that. So if you don't understand how he's using you, then he don't need you. And he proved that. He didn't need Saul.
I'm glad you used the words that you used because the first thing I thought of when you started talking was that Saul was living mediocre. Right? He was living mediocre. God had plans for him, but he coasted. But the problem with living mediocre, we talked several Sundays, is the God who died on the cross in Revelation says, behold, I make what?
All things.
The Old Testament says that God is what? Behold, you are new how often? Every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. I told you, God do new things. People looking for old things. God said, that was yesterday. We doing new things. Whatever you moral victory, that was yesterday. We on to new plans for you. Complacent. I just want to say where I'm at. Now the flip side of that, the flip side of the coin is David. David is someone who sinned a lot, but his mind after he sinned was so remorseful, you still, even as a rooter, root for him. I don't know anyone but maybe Saul mom who rooted for him because he just seemed ridiculous. Because he living lower, even his stature was tall, he was hiding in the back with the equipment, the Bible says. So he's living below where God had for him. So that's a good point, yes.
I think the other thing about Saul's character is that Saul cared more about what people thought of him than what God thought of him.
Yes.
So in all the times that we see, he mentioned that he feared the people and so he did wrong. You know, that was his excuse twice to Samuel. And then the other thing is, even in this very last story that we read, both times he was more concerned about optics because he said to Saul, okay, yes, I did wrong, but come with me.
Yeah. Yep.
Twice he said, come with me. So he cared more about the people and obeying their voice than obeying the voice of God.
This optics, right? This concept of people pleaser, especially nowadays with social media, you try to please everyone. A friend to all is a friend to none. Right? People say pick a side or what? Die in the middle. Crossfire, where you going? You in the middle. You the first one getting hit. Because you running where? It's like baseball. When you already committed and now where you going? Which base you going back to, right? That's the same thing with life is you have to pick a side. Even sometimes in church, we're like, oh, I don't want to pick a side. First of all, we are on God's side. It's you who forcing a side, right? If you are opposite of God's side, you have picked a side. We staying close to God, or at least I hope this is our resolve. So this concept of what Sister Nadine was saying is, that's another thing that we can apply here is sometimes, right? I feel like we do a lot of this with young people, like, peer pressure and things like that. I feel like adults have way more peer pressure than young people. Adults stay trying to keep up with the Joneses. You go to work and somebody got something, now you want that. You watch TV, somebody got that, now you want that. Somebody doing something HGTV, now you gotta have that. Somebody going on some trip, posting online, now you see, because the kid don't have resources to mimic, so they just try, go back home and try to make their own clothes and make it look like whatever they're trying to mimic. But an adult have something called a credit card. So you could easily try to mimic the things that you see. Are you trying to please people who are around you or do the things that God wants you to do? Interesting question. Yes.
It's quite interesting that you say that because the whole purpose as to why Israel wanted a king was they wanted to be like everybody else around them. So the judgment upon them was a king. They wanted to do what every other king did and not what God said. And now everybody mediocre or race to a middle, if you will. And it's the same pattern repeated over and over. It's just like they just doing the same thing. And he said this was but that same, it's very interesting. You said like keeping up with the Joneses. That was Israel. Keeping up with the Hittites. So it's
remember what God was saying to Samuel? Oh, don't feel bad, right? They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting me. Because they really want to worship other gods, and they know if they get a king, that's the gateway drug to worshiping other gods. Right? Because I'm smart and I'm God, so I already know. So remember, he laid that out. And then remember Samuel was saying, if you get a king, the king of the Lord over you, the king that attacks you, king of the tax on tax on tax. And instead of saying, I'm going to be the visual standard for the people, Saul is down with the people, but not leading from there. He's basically being led by their perception, right? And that's the sad thing. Yes.
Brother Ellis, one thing that really stands out with Saul is that he appeared to be a very insecure. And when you contrast Saul and David was confident about himself. And even in his sin, he was confident about what he wanted to do. Whereas Saul appeared to not be so sure about himself as a man
Mm.
and as a man of God.
Come on, sir.
Yeah, we could say wishy-washy, or I say sometimes, right? Or mixy, that's my new word, mixy. Mixy means like, that's the not picking a side. Like you tell me something, but then I see you with the same people you was talking something, that's mixy, right? Mix it, kind of mix into this, little mix of that, just mixy, little mix, right? He don't even know who he want to be. Now the flip side of that is David, right? David comes out, this is a boy. He come out and he wanted to know about the Philistines. What? Why y'all scared of this guy? The children of God. He had a rock. He had some extra rocks for Goliath's brother. And he just, remember they was like, hey man, take this armor, take this sword. We said, man, I can't rock with that. I gotta be loose. Right? Like I fight mobile because I be out here in the wilderness. Right? Like I just gotta be agile when you fighting lions, tigers, and bears, right? Because they come at you anyway. So he had his confidence, he had his style. That's a good point. We talk about this a lot in society from women's point of view of low self-esteem. But to be honest with you, because I lived a lot of years, I think there's more men out here with low self-esteem than women. Because you know why? It's because when women have low self-esteem, you can get in your group chat and then your friends will boast you up, right? Hey sis, you could do bad all by your own. Ooh sis, you losing weight, you ghosted. Dudes don't really have that. Their group chat not really good like that. So like, and now again, because things are so visual with social media, that's the one thing I don't want us as adults to discount with young people to say, well, you know, it's the same when we were kids. It's not the same because when you were younger, you'd be able to leave that at school and come home, right? But there is no leaving nonsense at school. You got nonsense before you go to sleep and before you even get on the bus because of social media, and the nonsense is visual. And remember, people are visual. That's the whole thing with the Israelites, right? They wanted to see a king, see a God, right? So when we look at these things in our modern life, could it be that we as a society have went so far down a visual path that now this concept of being unsure of ourselves and low self-esteem is no longer stereotypical to any gender, race, or creed, but now it's a society ill? I feel it is. I feel socially, people are more self-conscious than ever. And you could start with celebrities on them. Right? I just watch some of these celebrities and think, God almighty, if you just, because I really do think I have a talent of being able to spend money, and I spend money on good things. I feel like I have good taste. So when I see rich people complain, I be thinking, God, I don't want to get in your business, but you broke me off a little bit of that. I'll tell you something. I already told y'all a few weeks, my self-esteem high already. So you give me a couple more comments. They be worried about what we think, right? Celebrities be worried about what followers think, don't they?
Yes.
I'll forget the post if I was rich. You know why? I forget the post now. I'll be so busy living my life. Somebody say, hey man, you got a post. Oh, I forgot. Let me see. You got people with all the money, all the resources in the world, and they worrying about what we hear in Bible class.
Amen.
And they worrying about what we think. That's Saul king, and he, the Bible said, was head and shoulders over everybody, and he worrying about what people think. A grown man. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was looking, if we're looking at polar opposites, right? Talking about God on this side and Israel on the other side.
Yep.
The people of Israel are getting exactly what they wanted out of Saul in terms of a king, right? The first commandment that God gave them was what? You should not have no other gods or worship any other gods. God hates idolatry, right? And we see if we go back to Deuteronomy 20:16 through 18, where Deuteronomy 20, 16 through 18, where it says, however, in the cities of the nations the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, do not leave alive anything that breathes. Completely destroy them, the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites, as the Lord your God has commanded you. Otherwise, they will teach you to follow all of the detestable things they do in worship and their gods, and you will sin against the Lord your God. So the fact that Saul left the best, he calls it, of the animals to give it to God or make a sacrifice to God, he completely disobeyed one of the things that God hates the most. And then to make matters worse, he goes and built something for himself, not for God. In verse 12, I believe, early in the morning, Samuel got up and went to meet Saul. But he was told, Saul has gone to Carmel. There he has set up a monument in his own honor and turned and gone down to Gilgal. So to make matters worse, after disobeying God completely, doing one of the most detestable things to God, he goes and builds a monument for himself, not to God, a statue for himself. For what? For the people to worship him, not God, right? Like we said before, he's always worried about what people think about him. So he builds a statue of himself for people to worship him. So there's no way this guy can worship God or even obey God anymore. He's so far removed. He's on polar opposites of God.
Yes, this guy is. That's why I'm glad that the author was talking about this, that we were as a class able to expose a pattern. Because sometimes it's easier to see in other people than we can see in ourselves. But this pattern that we expose, now the more comments are going, we're even pulling out this pattern in so many different instances of his life. Now we're getting it from God's point of view, right? So when God says, I know the hearts of men, right? Like we have to look at it from his point of view. That kind of wraps up this 20. A lot of the last couple of comments brings us into this 20. 20 was Saul's confession genuine and serious? Explain. I feel like the last couple of comments were talking about that, about not being sure of himself. He wanted a monument, kind of like lip service, right? Telling you what you feel, telling somebody what you feel they want to hear. Right? Like, hey, I think you want to hear this, so the answer is you trying to read your facial expression, right? Where this is different when we look at somebody like a David, and David is lamenting, right? Lamenting, like not just crying, weeping, right? Like groaning in your spirit over the things that you did versus flippantly saying, hey, sorry, but it wasn't me, it was the people, right? Hey, sorry, I ate that, but it wasn't me, it was the wife you gave. Oh. So now it's my fault.
Yep.
What about you, Eve? No, it wasn't me. It was a serpent. And who made the serpent? I made that serpent. Oh, so now I make jump. Slippery. Like, what you want me to say? See how that all goes back to that concept of it comes back to blaming God. And when you look at this concept of Saul taking the best, and God say what? Sweetheart, I'm your best. What are you talking about? People online now say, I'm your peace. Be your significant other peace. One of them things I already said, I'm all the peace you need. What peace you need? A piece of me, maybe, but what peace? Once you start looking for peace and happiness somewhere else, the spouse thinking what? We all the peace we got right here. Isn't that what Saul doing? I want nice things. What nice things you need? Not the nice things you got. Better gifts. They got better gifts over there. Right? Isn't that what he decided what was good, what was bad, and he took for himself. He built a little statue for himself, a little monument, something to, boost his confidence. When he feeling low, he go back to Carmel and look at this thing and remind himself, my crown on too. I forgot I'm king. Okay. But God is out of the picture there. So that's when I was speaking earlier about self-confidence, is at a young age, I never looked at how I interact with the world like other people. And that's a benefit to me. Other people use validation from the outside, but I never was that way. That's a benefit to me. That's why I say all the time in personality, sometimes we feel like everyone in church have the same personality. That's how certain things in the Bible are easier for me to adapt to, because I never had that struggle of trying to do something for the sake of somebody else. But if you have that struggle, I feel we should be more honest about it, because here is a situation of, if you don't check that, how your life could be if you were too much of a people pleaser. Even when it's time for Lord's Supper and prayer request, question 20, you may not be fully genuine or remorseful or serious, right? You may be playing around. And that's why Paul told the Corinthians, some people are sick and dead among you because they won't take the Lord's Supper seriously. Remember he said that? He said some people in the congregation is sick, right? Dying. Sick means dying. But some what? He said already passed on. But no, they still worship it. The Bible said vain do they worship. They teaching doctrine of men because they're not serious. Revelation. Well, you do some good things good, you do some things bad, you lukewarm. But honestly, I wish you would pick up, what did Jesus say? A side. Because in the middle, we vomit in the middle of it. See? Pick a side. I literally wish you were hot or cold. You pick. Because if you would have been cold, the letter would have been way different, right? Here are the things you need to correct. Because you cold. Just work on these. Next time I come back, y'all will be hot. But because you're mixing hot and cold and being mixy, like the wheat and the tares, I gotta let them both grow. Because how are we gonna decipher hot and cold water out of lukewarm? This tea right here, this is lukewarm now. How am I gonna get the hot part out and the cold part out? Anybody know how to? Because I would like some hot tea. The microwave is at the house. And we're going to be here for a lot of hours. How am I going to fix this? Anybody have any solution? Or put over ice and make it cold. Throw it out. Okay, the sister started off talking about disfellowship. How are we going to get lukewarm, the hot or the cold out of you when you already decided to do some church and some work? How are we going to fix it? Anybody have a solution for that? I would love to hear a solution for that. Anybody have a solution to fix that? Some church and some work? Talk to me after, please. Don't even wait for the anniversary to start, because we fix a lot of brothers and sisters on our directory. If you could help us with that, that's what God is saying. No different than this tea. It's the same with our lives. So when we see this, of course, again, like I said, the last couple of comments I felt really touched on this heavily is his confession wasn't genuine. His confession wasn't serious because of the word choices that he used. Sister Nadine pointed out last week, she was catching up on his slick mouth. Like, these word choices he's using specifically, and even his intentions were wrong, because when Samuel came to see him, he was in Carmel worrying about his own self. So when we look at all of this, just if you go back really quick in closing on page 9, this bottom left says the lesson concept, obedience. Expecting exact adherence to God's law. Exact adherence. Right? That's why we talk about changing your heart from the inside out. Remember, Jesus was interacting with some people and they said, hey man, your people dirty, they don't wash their hands. And what was Jesus' response? Y'all need to be worrying about the inside of the cup. Where the juice goes. You worry about the outside. I just gotta clean the rim where my mouth goes. You so clean on the outside, but in the inside, other reference verse he said are like what? You just like whitewashed tombs. What do it look like us washing a tomb? We go to a mausoleum and just like our car, we washing it. Would that look weird? Strange to me. What you doing? Oh, I'm cleaning this. My loved one is in there. Is any value in cleaning a mausoleum? whitewashed tomb, keeping the tomb pristine. And somebody said, hey, that tomb vacant? Oh, no, it's bones in there. Remember when Paul said, some people already dead, still cleaning up. Paul said, it's bones in there. No, Holy Spirit in there. Holy Spirit said, who in there? Holy Spirit said, I ain't been in there in many Sundays. What you talking about? Don't put that out of me. See how these verses flow together? Yeah. So when we talk about obedience this week, really, if you're doing a personal study, if you're doing a family study, use this as an opportunity to set a standard in your life or in your family this week, right? I feel like sometimes we have good intentions as Christians, but we try to do so much. Just look at things in days and weeks, right? This week, right, if you live and Christ doesn't return, the rest of this week, try to focus on this kind of stuff, right? Just pick one aspect of your personality, not a physical thing that you do, but drill down to why you do what you do, right? And then expose that personality trait that you know is contrary to your own benefit, and try to use this study as worst case scenario. If I keep down this path, look where this could be. So instead, I'm going to try a new approach this week and walk by faith, not by sight. I'm going to pick verses that specifically target my negative point of view, and I'm going to try to follow those. And literally, just see what happens. Right? Just see in this week. Hey, I'm going to try something different. Usually when I'm tempted to do this, I do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to try something totally different. I'm going to really focus on the opposite. All right, thank you for all of our comments, everyone who had much good discussion today. This was a good class. Next week, we'll be going on to lesson 5, and we'll be learning about this young boy named David and his interaction with Jonathan and Saul. At this time, we will close our Bible study with a word of prayer, and then we will transition into our worship service. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful and blessed day. Thank you for giving us the opportunity just here as Bible students with the ability to study a portion of your word. We are elated that we were able to conclude in this specific Bible study, as we had seen so much great application to our personal lives over the last several weeks about being obedient to not some of what you ask, but to all. And we know that your commandments are not burdensome, because if we love you, we will keep those commandments. And those things will become a lifestyle instead of a list of do's and don'ts. We pray, dear God, this week, if we live and your Son has not returned, and you will allow us to have the self-control and the wisdom to be able to see right and wrong and be able to choose the right path this week. We pray that you will bless us with a life-altering, life-changing faith this week. Start with the little things in our lives, if it be thy will, that we be able to get small victories and build our confidence up when it's time to be in those trials and tribulations. We'll be able to perform better, and you will get the glory and praise. Be with those traveling at this time without the loss of harm of any as we transition into worship service. Be with those brothers who will be leading us in areas of saints to serve. And we pray, dear God, that you will bless us, guide, guard, and keep us. Our intention is to worship you in spirit and in truth. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray these things. Amen. Amen. Once again, thank you for our Bible readers and those who had comments. For our baptized brothers, if we can go to the room 2 or 3, all of our baptized brothers from Bridgeport, if we can go to room 2 and 3, just behind this partition, just so we can get ourselves together for a worship service. All of our baptized brothers, if we can take a very quick 5 minutes to go into the adjacent room, and we will get ourselves together. The rest of you may go amongst yourself, and we will start worship momentarily. Oh, good. Okay. Anything issues with it? Yeah, and the only reason why I put it is the chorus, because it's really good to sing and for that. Say more, because you know it's good.
Yes, yes, yes.
First time here.
Hey,
Yeah.
this is Peace. How are you, brother? Good to see you. How's everything? Good. You feeling all right? Good. God bless. I hear you.
Judge Washington.
I think so.
I'm gonna get them to bring it.
Yeah. So everybody is. So.
Yeah, I'm